We're here. Clock out, mentally at least, and pull up a chair. Welcome to the broken shift where the codes are emotional, the tea is hot, and the trauma, oh, it's charted, just not processed, and definitely not reimbursed. I'm Nat, and when it gets deep, like grab your crystals and call HR kind of deep, that's when Natalie Michelle shows up. Just know if you hear both names, buckle up. Once again, welcome to the Broken Shift, and I have another doozy. Yep, this is an old case, but I told you I would be bringing you old cases. I was doing some research because I wanted to find the nurse who was abused or assaulted by the woman who was sentenced to jail for 5 years on, I think it was on August 22nd. So, for assaulting her. And you know what doesn't cease to amaze me, and what I'm reminded of is why I took a break from doing these is because there is no shortage. There's absolutely no shortage. Oh, like I was saying, there's absolutely no there's no shortage of these stories. There's no shortage of this. It's absolutely it you know, it's really when you start to look for these stories, it becomes pretty appalling. And here I was looking for, this is the story I was looking for, right? I This was the one where the lady where this woman was sentenced to 5 years. And then I was doing some research because I wanted to find out the story about what happened to the nurse who was assaulted, viciously assaulted by her. And then I found this ER nurse pounded by irate woman at Whataburger drive through in vicious drive-in through drive-through, I'm sorry, in wow. The ER nurse pounded by irate woman at Whataburger drive-through in vicious, caught on camera. So it was a vicious attack. ER nurse violently pounded in caught on video assault at Whataburger drive-through. This is US News, I think, but this was in the originally this video was from the New York Post. And let me tell you, it's one thing when you get assaulted at work. It's another thing when you have patients following you to wherever you're going, like the Whataburger. That's a burger place. And I'm gonna play the clip for you here in a minute, but you know that's really scary. Like patients are not waiting for you patients are waiting for you to follow you after work to assault you. And you know, it's like where am I? Like, am I at a Walmart? Am I at a public venue? I'm at work, you know, and obviously we don't have any over control. We don't have any control over the people's behaviors, and you know, this is one of those situations where, wow, like I don't even know what can the facility do in this case, and what causes somebody to escalate to this point. You know, I've had patients with gunshot wounds refuse care. I've had patients with, you know, just be completely belligerent post op after you know, be after having a surgical procedure for gunshot wounds or for being involved in a gunshot incident, and just be completely belligerent because they didn't want to follow doctor's orders to not to be non weight bearing on the leg so that they wouldn't have to go back into the OR for their health, you know? And sometimes you just got to say, like, you know, okay, you do you, right? As a nurse, you go, you do you. You're being belligerent, you do you. But is that really what you want to do as a nurse? It's not. But, like, you know, when it comes between me having to, me trying to keep you safe and me trying to keep me safe, I'm going to keep me safe first. And you know, especially for the new nurses get like scared because they're afraid, like, oh my gosh, if something happens to the patient, if this patient has to go back to the OR, you know, the doctor's going to be mad. But we can't, you know, people want to behave the way they want to behave. They have to deal with the consequences of their action. And if we've told you no and you decide to do something, then that's what it is. This is insane. This is a Houston ER nurse was viciously beaten in a shocking caught on camera assault at Whataburger. So I'm going to play it for you and then we're going to talk a little bit about it. Yeah, we don't know who the nurse is. She didn't want to be, or he didn't want to be named. Um,
This woman spilling swear words from her mouth that might even make a sailor blush. No, go that way! On top of that, she opened the nurse's door and beat her, not once, but twice.
All right. So, okay. So in this case, a Houston ER nurse was viciously beaten in a shocking caught on camera assault at Whataburger drive-thru just because she accidentally bumped the car in front of her. So this was not work related. This was like a road rage incident, but she could probably see the woman was in her, she was probably in her uniform, you know. Ooh, I had rolled down my, this is what the nurse said. I had rolled down my window to ask, and I apologized. I said, I'm sorry, did I hit your car? I really wasn't sure. And immediately she got out and started screaming, and she told me to move my car back. She was visibly upset. She said, I knew that, but I didn't think she was going to come over, and, I didn't know that she would attack me for it. Yeah, well, it's ugly out there. And this is just another nurse randomly being attacked, right? And obviously I wasn't sure because I hadn't read it. I was just going through and I decided to bring it on. But, maybe now with the laws, having who would have protected, the thing is that who would protect another person? Who would protect someone else from this incident here? I don't know. Ooh, the enraged driver took off before the cops got to the scene, leaving the nurse with a busted blood vessel in her eye, a busted lip, and a bruised face. And she said, I really couldn't see, the victim told the outlet. I was a little disoriented. She had hit my head, in the side of my head and stuff. Like and probably, she speculated her attacker might even be a neighbor since she lives near the fast food restaurant. The cars will go away, she told the outlet. The bruises will heal. The swelling will go down. But I just felt dehumanized. And that's the thing, right? That's what it's all about. Even though this incident was not work related, because I was going to say that this woman followed her from work, but she doesn't even know, right? She doesn't know. She doesn't recall who the woman is. She has no idea. It could be a neighbor, could be somebody that followed her from work. And the bottom line is that it's just dehumanizing. Like there's no reason for this. Like you had an accident. Right? Let's fix it. If I need to fix your car, we'll get your car fixed. And nobody's, I don't know. I can't say. I like to, I like to live in my little bubble sometimes and think, oh, nobody's going to purposely hit your car. And we know that there are incidents where people do this for money, but clearly she got out of her car and that's not what was going on. And I even said in my last video, I said that, maybe that I don't think nurses are not in the hospital trying to take advantage of their patients or abusing their patients. But, the truth of the matter is that happens too. And patients don't go to the hospital to be abused. Where are the safeguards to protect the nurses? Where are the safeguards to protect the patients? The one thing that you won't see happen in the hospital for the most part is somebody being outwardly and physically abused in this way. Now I do have some clips that I'll be bringing you, and I have already brought you a couple where nurses do horrendous things. So I don't want to, and I bring those here because I don't want people to think that I really feel like, oh, nurses never do wrong, right? We're all human, right? We're all human. And this is why this statement hits so hard for me, because why are we dehumanizing each other in this way? Why does it have to come to that there needs to be a bill to protect nurses? Like when all you have to do is come in and treat each other like you want to be treated. We need a bill to tell people that? Like, I just keep wondering, like, what has this world come to? That we need to put a bill in legislation Probably mostly so that it can be they can be prosecuted to the highest extent of the law, right? Because obviously the behavior continues. It doesn't stop. People do what they do, I guess, and still, I would like to know. I mean, this incident is not that incident, but I would like to know what facilities. So if you work for a facility, do drop me a comment. Let me know what you're doing to protect your nurses, especially when you have a patient in the hospital. Does that patient get to stay? Does that patient get arrested? Like, what happens? When the nurse comes to you and says this patient is being belligerent and abusive. Because I can remember I talked about, I don't know if it was in this video, I can't remember if I talked about it in this video or in the other one, but, when your patient is like yelling at you and telling you they don't want to follow the doctor's orders to do what they need to do to keep themselves safe even, it's just mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. They're abusing you, verbally abusing you, because you're basically telling them they need to do something to keep themselves safe. And we all understand that people don't like to be in the hospital, but if you have to be there, it's not my fault. It's not a nurse's fault that you're in the hospital. The nurse didn't put you there. So anyhow, drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about this one. And like I said, nursing shouldn't break you, and it shouldn't break your patients either. All right. I will see you in the next one.